me feeling like I'm Akademiks. Can't
News has came down, chat. There's a lot of news that has came down, and the news that came down is letting us know that so this Netflix-iHeart media partnership has now been flushed out a bit. Apparently, they're expanding into video partnerships, and what's happening is that iHeart is taking the video off of YouTube because Netflix wants to compete with YouTube. So Netflix got this partnership with iHeartMedia. And remember, this is why I said, for the people who think Charlamagne's contract won't be renewed, bro, if anything, Charlamagne right this moment is using this conversation about if he's going to stay to probably get $1 million or $2 million more out of iHeart. They need him. I told you, they need him. They need him because they are getting into some licensing stuff, and Black Effect, even if it's not giving the best numbers, they're getting real estate with these particular podcasts. And he is a proprietor of Black Effect that they need around because at a certain point, they're just licensing stuff that they claim they own. They own the radio station, but they want to say they own podcasts too. They've been getting into this podcast space for a bit. Netflix wants to get and compete with video for YouTube, but they don't want to do like vlogs right now, reaction videos. They're starting with podcasts. So what they did is they announced this deal. The Netflix-iHeart deal is going to bring video podcast partnerships with 15 established iHeart podcasts and Netflix as a video series. So they're no longer going to be on YouTube. Now, the podcasts that are going to be removed off, at least for the video, going to be removed off YouTube, are going to be the following. The Breakfast Club, which, again, if they just did a deal for the Breakfast Club to be on Netflix, why would they let the Breakfast Club biggest star leave? He's not leaving, right? And I know Charlamagne's smart enough and his people are smart enough to use this as leverage to get some money if the deal isn't closed yet. My Favorite Murderer, don't know what that is. Bobby Bones does the Bobby Cast, don't know what that is. Dear Chelsea, don't know what that is. Joe and Jada, well, I know what that is. This is Important, don't know what that is. Psychology of the 20s, don't know what that is. Behind the Bastards, don't know what that is. Stuff They Want You to Know, don't know what that is. So you can tell Netflix picked these podcasts. Stuff to Blow Your Mind. New Rory and Millie Mall. You could tell they were going in the dumpster at that point. They're taking anything. And 3 and Out and Buried Bones. So, it looks like some of them are from Black Effect. I don't think that Rory and Millie Mall is on Black Effect, but I do believe that Joe and Jada is on Black Effect, if I'm not wrong, right? Black Effect Podcast. We looked at those shows before. Is Joe and Jada under there? Let's see. Okay, I don't think they are. I'm surprised Perspective with Banks didn't go under there. I'm actually really surprised. What happened to the 85 South show? Now, no matter what, if they're going into this realm, this is a test. So these 15 podcasts are the test dummies, the guinea pigs. And if it works well, they're probably going to license more podcasts. And if they license more podcasts, they're probably going to go into more of the Black Effect podcasts. So if you ask me, this is going to go two ways. Maybe Charlamagne takes a haircut, pause. Like he goes in for a little bit less money on a shorter deal just to turn up for the Breakfast Club, because one of these shows got to be the show that we're all clicking to Netflix to watch. I don't think it's going to be Rory and Millie Mall. I don't think it's going to be Joe and Jada either, and the rest of these ain't black. So I think it got to be the Breakfast Club. So I think we got to get the old not Joe. We got to get the old Charlamagne on there. We got to get Charlamagne turning the fuck up. Them Donkey Todays got to be a little bit funnier. He got to get back to, if I'm thinking that they want to make a splash, that Netflix says, oh, wow, we're getting some viewership. We're getting some classic interviews. People are coming here, blah, blah, blah. All right, bet. Let's partner for 20 more podcasts. And that, he might have some leverage to say, the next batch of 20 or 15 that iHeart does, 5 of them got to be Black Effect. So again, I keep telling you, Charlamagne is an executive. That's at this point I look at him in the broadcast game as more of an executive than talent. And I think when you watch him on the Breakfast Club, that's just him being an executive steering the ship. Just like he's Stephen A. Smith. Granted, is he still like one of the best? Yes. What they confirmed, the partnership is an extension of podcasting to video, emphasizing continued audio availability across existing platforms. He said the shows remain accessible as audio-only podcasts everywhere podcasts can be heard, which means Apple Music or Apple Podcasts, Spotify, even YouTube, I would imagine just audio. Lawrence Smith, president of Content Licensing and Program Strategy, confirmed that Netflix members will have access to video podcasts as well as known hosts, blah, blah, with the lineup focused on true crime, culture, and comedy. Now, here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. I'm wondering how much push. You see, Netflix is really good. Because they have so much members, if they front page something, it's going to go. So I'm wondering, like, Netflix is, if you go on Netflix these days, during football season, because there's like a football game a week or something that gets broadcasted on it. So it'll put a football game that's kind of on the front page sometimes. It has WWE on the front page. Like, they're going to get to the problem of, at the end of the day, you can't promote everything, right? And yes, they wield the power of having a mini country in terms of they have hundreds of people. How many subscribers do they have? Hundreds of millions, I mean. How many subscribers does Netflix have? They have 301 million. You get what I'm saying? So if they just front page something, they're probably going to have 20 million people go watch it, right? So if they start front paging some of these podcasts or like moving them up in the blocks where people could easily search it or even do a promo campaign for any one of these, that might be huge, a huge marketing thing too, right? How many people watch? How many active users on YouTube? YouTube probably has 1 billion or two. Okay, 2.7 billion. So if they're trying to, so this is 2.7. Oh no, all right, 2.5. Let's go with 2.5. 2.5 active users, 2.5 billion. And Netflix, they're pushing, they're trying to get to 500 million. They're trying to compete here, but here's the great thing about them. They're charging like $20 for everybody there. Let's look at how many people have YouTube Red. Yes. Okay, so YouTube Red has 125 million people. So it looks like they're also trying to make sure YouTube Red doesn't grow too much. Because if YouTube Red grows too much, what they're going to do, remember when YouTube was putting out their own movies? They're going to go back to doing that. And that was getting market share from Netflix. So this is a really shrewd play. And, I think if we think business-wise, they got to keep Charlamagne. That's iHeart. iHeart's now in the they're in the game of licensing, right? They're realizing that iHeart doesn't have necessarily the platform anymore, but they're looking at themselves like the radios. They're looking at themselves like when tech outran the labels. When tech outran the labels and people pirated the music and people stopped buying CDs, what they did was they licensed the music to Spotify and Apple Music. Now, when essentially when people are stopped listening to radio, they still have enough shows, or they've been investing in whether it's Black Effect Show or Black Effect Network, and they've been trying to acquire things, right? iHeart Podcast. They've been doing that they could later license. So they're trying to do what record labels do. We're playing the licensing game. And the licensing game, who is in the business of buying? Netflix. Okay? And here's the thing about the licensing game. Remember, this is 15 podcasts. This is a proof of concept. Once this happens, the next step is, so this is going to be for a couple of years, and then Netflix is going to make their own podcast. They're going to start their own podcast division. It's like when Joe Budden went to Spotify, and they were like, all right, we're down to kind of like license what y'all got going on. And then after they realized, podcasts could really move the needle for Spotify, they basically said, all right, we're not doing that no more. We got to own you. we need to own you because we're going to just buy podcast networks and create our own. And then they didn't want to pay nobody no more money for exclusives anymore. They're like, because right now these are exclusives. So we're seeing the same games get played all over again. These are all the same games getting played all over again. This is the Spotify game. Yo, we're going to test the water with some podcasts. Okay? They realize it worked. Then they start pushing for ownership to buy out those podcasts. And by the time they've invested so much, they realize it's going to be a thing on their platform. They just create their own podcast or just buy big podcast networks, and now they're a player in the podcast game. So they're just doing the first step that Joe Budden did, right? They're doing the first step. So essentially, the Breakfast Club is Joe Budden of earlier day, when Joe Budden podcast got signed to Spotify. And remember, they did 2 rounds of it, 2 or 3 rounds actually. Spotify did 2 or 3 rounds. I was in the second round. So they they licensed Joe, went for 2 years. They got a lot of data from that. Oh shit, this shit gonna work. Okay, cool. Oh, Akademiks, come over here too. All right, bet. I'm over there for 2 years too, right? After that, they didn't really go 3 rounds. After that, they basically told everybody else, yeah, we got about 5 years of data. Y'all could come over here and monetize with us. We got a monetization process, but we're not paying y'all no more because we already got the people. We got the people. We've extracted the people from y'all audience. We got the people. If y'all want the access to our paying subscribers, which is, theirs is like almost pushing 500 million. Maybe they put something like, oh, if someone from Netflix, if someone subscribes to Netflix, they could offer to pay an extra $1 to have exclusive podcast episode, and then they could give big bonuses to like the podcast that people watch. Maybe something like that works, but they're doing the same thing that Spotify did. They're doing this exact same thing. Yeah. Anyway. Let me see what else I could react to. What's this? Okay. Anything on here important? Okay. All right, they're just talking. All right, bet. All right. What else am I missing? I feel like I'm missing some